folks, good morning and welcome to Board Game Breakfast. You may be wondering why Board Game Breakfast is showing up on Tuesday, and that's because I just got back from Origins this past week and tried to catch up, tried to get everything done to have Board Game Breakfast out on time, and it just didn't happen, so I decided it'd be better just to push it back one day to make sure we got it correct. Now, I know there was a couple things from Origins that we did not deliver on. As promised, I said there would be a whole lot of tweets from our Twitter feed, and that's because when I got to Origins, I got extremely sick, and I was very fortunate to have a team of Dice Tower people who helped cover the videos and things that we did there, but for a couple days I was completely out of commission, and then I had to scramble to catch up when I was done. But it was a great time, and we'll talk more about that a bit later, but for now, the news. Getting into the news, the first thing we have the Origins Awards. There's several different games were nominated for the Origins Awards, and I'll talk about that process some other time. But the winners, they had two winners this year. They had a winner. The regular Origins Awards winner is voted on by the committee, the Academy it's called. I'm a member of that, so are many other people. And then there was the People's Choice, where you could vote at Origins itself. So for the ones that might interest you folks, the best board game in both categories by the Academy and by the People's Choice was Trains from AEG, the deck building game. The best card game was Love Letter. Again, that was both People's Choice and the Academy Choice. The best family game from the Academy, well, actually it's a three-game category. It's best family, children's, party game. Whatever. They shouldn't be together, but they are. So Three Little Pigs from Yellow won that from the Academy, and the People's Choice was Walk the Plank. Both excellent games. And the best historical board game was 1775 Rebellion, People's Choice and the Academy, which is a really good game, and I'm glad it won. I was kind of surprised it beat out Freedom, the Underground Railroad. The Diana Jones Award nominees are announced. Now, this is an award that's given out at Gen Con each year, and they pick something that's supposed to be really good for the industry. Like, for example, last year they did Tabletop, the series with Will Wheaton. But it's still sometimes baffling to me how they managed to pick what they picked, because here's the thing. They had Paizo Publishing, okay? Then they had the game ROFL from Cryptozoic. Then they had Terra Mystica from Z-Man Games. Then Hillfolk, which is an RPG. And then Evil Hat Productions. I mean, how are you... I don't really see how these things compare. I mean, I would guess Paizo Publishing. I liked ROFL, but of all the games last year, I don't know. It's a little baffling to me how this award is picked. Steve Jackson has officially put out now their Ogre Pocket Edition. Don't want to pay $100 for Ogre? Want to pay just a couple bucks? Well, there you go. Same game. Cryptozoic and AEG have announced a partnership. More versions of Love Letter. We have Adventure Time, DC Comics, The Hobbit, Downtown Abbey. Look, guys, I love Love Letter just like everyone else, and I thought it was cool that they themed it with Munchkin for Loot Letter because it can reach a wider audience. I thought it was cool that there's a wedding version. I am starting to wonder if maybe there's too many versions of this. Alright, well, whatever. We found out some more information from Plaid Hat Games about Downwood Tales. They show one of the new characters, Jacob, for Mice and Mystics. This is just the next expansion with new characters. This is a character who has a detachable tail. Very cool. I would use him. Fantasy Flight's announced a new game about Star Wars, another card game called Star Wars Empire vs. Rebellion. Now, this doesn't look like an in-depth version of Star Wars. In fact, it just looks like re-theming of another game they did, which was CIA vs. KGB. I don't know if that's exactly what it is. It just seems that way from the description. A little generic. But staying away from generic, X-Wing, they've announced Wave 5, 2 new ships, big ships. They have the YT 2400, which is a freighter for the good guys, the light side, and then the VT-49 Decimator, which apparently was the bad guy version of the Millennium Falcon to some degree. They say it's the biggest of the small ships that's come out. So that's exciting. I'm glad to have more ships, and these things look nasty and fun to have on the table. Board Game Geek Con is sold out, which is pretty good since it's not till November, and it's only June, so good on them. Blue Panther will soon have Knockdown Meeple Towers. Knockdown means you can take it apart. So that's pretty cool. They make the wooden dice towers for the dice tower. And so now we have a meeple version of this. Some other games that are coming out from Z-Man Games. Tragedy Looper. This is a card game, a deduction game where there's the protagonists who are trying to figure out how to get out of this eternal loop that's going on and on and on and on. And then there's the bad guy who's trying to make sure that that happens. I have no idea how it works. It sounds fascinating. Hopefully it's good. They also announced Pandemic Contagion. I saw this at Origins, where you are the virus. There is no cure. That's the tagline. It's just like Pandemic, except you're the virus is trying to compete to destroy the world. And I saw this cool little postcard Caverna expansion that's available from Lookout. If you order games from them, or you can just buy these themselves. Some more building tiles, which makes me convinced that we will see a full-blown expansion for Caverna with many more buildings. Quite a few games were released last week, folks. At the Cool Stuff website, Valley of the Kings and Istanbul, both from AEG and Pagoda. The game I talked about previously, Galactic Strike Force. In fact, you didn't get miniatures for it from Greater Than Games. Winter Tales. We've been waiting for this one for a long time from Fantasy Flight. The Star Trek Attack Wing, Wave 6 with the Borg Cube was released. Crossmaster Frigost, which is like a snow-covered version for the Crossmaster miniature game. The Rolling Freight Maps, India / Great Britain on 2 different sides. And Karma Race. So quite a few games, and quite a few more are coming, folks, so stay tuned. Next week, Crash games will be available. Some of them, Rise, The Lost Dutchman, Paradise Fallen, and Council of Verona. The big game that's going to be released this week is Ticket to Ride Anniversary Edition. I'm sure many of you want to get that one. And the HBO Game of Thrones card game that I think was initially only available in Target will also be available. And then extra Battle Lore dice, if you like Battle Lore and want to get more dice. So those are things that are coming out soon. All right, to the professor.
Hi there, everyone. This is Scott Nicholson, and welcome to the Ivory Dice Tower, which is one academic's take on the world of board games. Now, we're wrapping up a discussion of gamification. This is something I've been working on for a while, and I'm going to talk about the gamification journey. And that's my concept when I was thinking about this. And I said, well, you know, you can have these points, and those are a superficial layer, and you can have these meaningful gamification elements, but reality, they're just another superficial layer. How do you actually get people engaged in this real-world context? How do you get people to say, you know, the points are fine, these other things are fine, but I really want to be engaged in this? And I realized the thing that keeps us engaged for the long term out there in the real world is being involved with communities. And there's this concept called the community of practice. And a community of practice are a group of people that are involved around a context. And it can involve mentors and leaders and participants. They share information, they engage with each other, they may have their own specialized language, they may have meetings, they have places to exist online or face-to-face. And most of these real-world contexts have a community of practice already associated with them. So the goal of the gamification journey is to actually use game elements to escort someone from not being involved in a context to being involved in a real-world context. So Daniel Pink talks about how to use rewards, and he talks about one time when you can use rewards is when there's nothing creative going on. So what I picture is you start out in a tutorial mode. The rewards help you explore the system and understand what's going on. But then you're segued into more meaningful elements, play and storytelling and creation and choice and all of those things from my recipe. And those are good and useful, and they're useful layers, but the goal of those is actually to escort you into the community, to help you find your place in that community of practice. And those even become less and less important as time goes on, because the goal is really to get you authentically involved in the community, to peel off those gamification layers and throw them away. And that's the goal of the gamification journey, to design a system from the ground up so that the system becomes less and less important the more someone is engaged in something in the long term. Now, this is really only important for long-term stuff. If all you care about is getting people to see your movie or getting people to buy a board game, well, fine, use other sorts of incentives or rewards. You're not going for long-term engagement. But actually, you may even want to think about that, because the concept of loyalty, loyalty to a designer, loyalty to a brand, is an important thing to build. And loyalty many times develops through community engagement. So how can you help your customers become part of the community that surrounds your brand? That's where long-term change happens. And that's enough of gamification. Next time, I'm going to talk more about games like these. Hooray! I'll talk to you later, and bye-bye.
Dominion. Let's play Dominion. The Dude. The Dude. Let's play The Dude.
Hey folks, Dice Tower Productions this week is going to be a little bit different, especially on the video side. This week we still have our Dice Tower podcast, which is going up today, and there's all the stuff on Dice Tower Network, all the different podcasts, Dice Tower News. Don't forget that 3 times a week, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we give you there's a 5 to 10 minute news podcast that you can listen to, and you can find that at dicetowernews.com. For videos though this week, we might have a preview, maybe a review, but for the most part this week, we are going to be looking at the Origins Summer Preview with the Dice Tower. If you were at Origins, you saw us recording it. It was a good chunk of what we did. We had our own section, and publishers would come by and they would show off games that either just were released, are about to be released, or might come out at Gen Con. Like, for example, the Pandemic I talked about earlier. So that's going to be, we have a lot of these videos. I think we have at least 40 of them. So I'm going to try to post them this week so that you can see them and enjoy and look at all the new games that are coming out. And then next week we'll get full bore back in the reviews. And I got some pretty cool big name reviews for you that are coming. The week after that will be the Dice Tower convention. And we're actually going to shut the Dice Tower down that week. There's going to be no videos, no podcasts. Just give us 1 week of the year where we'll just take a complete break, and we'll be back the next week with a ton of reviews. All right, where are we at now? iOS.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. I could open with a cheesy hang 10 joke here, but I won't do that to you. Today we're going to take a look at a game that was originally released in 1998, Kahuna. How does this game translate to the app world? Let's take a quick look. In this 2-player set collection and area control game, you'll be building bridges between islands, attempting to place more of your marker stones than your opponent. Build a bridge by playing a card, or destroy a bridge by playing 2 cards. The game is done after 3 quick individually scored rounds. The iOS implementation of Kahuna is cute and clean, and the interface is intuitive, which it should be for such a simple game. For solo play, they've set up a sort of campaign mode for you to work through. You'll play against a series of 12 different AI opponents that each have a different play style, helping ensure the game remains challenging. On the other hand, as far as I can tell, the only way to play solo is through the campaign, and you're not able to select a specific AI or just play an isolated game, at least until you complete the campaign. You also can't have multiple games going at once, which means if you're sharing a device, you'll play off of the same campaign. For multiplayer, Kahuna has online play through Game Center, but it does not have a pass and play feature, which is a shame because it's basically perfect for a sofa game with a friend. All in all, Kahuna is a quick, lightweight 2-player game. On iOS, it's a solid implementation, but light on features. That said, I think the value is about right for the price, especially if you like playing solo filler games on your device. Give it a try.
Hey folks, Tom Vasel here.
Jason Levine.
And today our question comes from Jonathan. And Jonathan says he loves games. He tells everybody he loves games. But sometimes when he's playing games, he gets really irritated. And it can be kind of a sore loser. He doesn't even think he's showing it. But afterwards, people come to him and say, or maybe his wife will talk to him, or someone will say, hey, you know, and he doesn't want to be someone who looks like they don't enjoy games. Now, you and I, we've played games with people before, and we're like, why are they playing games? Do they like to game?
Sam.
Hey, okay, now, when you're playing a game, have you ever got angry during a game?
Actually, yes. Not often.
What makes you angry when playing a game? Not usually the game, probably.
No, it's the diplomacy that goes around the game that gets me angry sometimes.
I think when I think what I've seen Jason get irritated at games, it's usually when the game is not being, but the people are not playing the game in the way it was intended to be played.
Yeah.
Okay, right, okay. And I've gotten angry before, but usually because I think the other person's a jerk. But I mean, sometimes you can roll dice, or you can do everything right, and the game just doesn't go your way. That's a very strong possibility, right?
I never get angry at that, though.
Okay, well, that's fine for Jason, but most people, it can be a little irritating when it happens. And I think that the biggest thing is this: if you don't enjoy games, then don't play them. If they make you angry, don't play them. And if other people tell you that you're being a little uncomfortable to be around, you need to pay attention to that. It's certainly something that I mention to people sometimes. They'll say, hey, you know...
Mosquitoes.
Florida. But anyhow, the being around other people who are obviously having an unfun time ruins it for me. What do you think? When you play with somebody who's not having a good time playing a game?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the way I look at it is it's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. It's the kind of thing you do in your spare time, so you should just enjoy it. You should enjoy every moment of it when you're playing and not get so worked up about, am I winning, am I losing? Just enjoy the experience.
Okay, but what if you're playing with someone who's not having a good time? Do you say anything, or do you just try to go play at a different table?
I usually try to go play at a different table, walk away from those people.
Well, right. So what I'm saying, folks, is that if you're around someone who, I mean, if you have people who are constantly playing a game with you and then, you know, going and playing a different game, you should think about that. Not everyone likes everything. If I had to go play basketball every day, I'd get irritated very quickly. I'm not a big fan of playing basketball. I'd rather play board games. So... always think about the other person. How much are they enjoying it? Look at everyone else at the table. Are they enjoying it? If they are, then you're probably being a good sport.
Yeah, and...
unless, of course, everyone's beating the snot out of you.
No, even when you're getting beat on. I get beat on in games, and everyone at the table is beating on me, but I still have a good time.
I like to point out, Jason wins 90% of the games we play, so don't let him fool you.
Sometimes.
All right. So anyhow... thanks a lot for listening. Hey, folks, we'd love to hear your questions. Email us at dicetower@gmail.com. You can even send in a video question, and we will try to answer it on the show. In my one-hit wonder segment, I take a look at a game that was once in my top 100 and no longer is, and explain why. Although the obvious answer to that usually is just, I keep playing more and more games, and so the threshold for being in the top 100 keeps shrinking. But today's a game many of you probably have not heard of, and that game is War Angel. War Angel comes from Italy, and it is a grandiose game of which I've never seen the likes of. In this game, you take little units and you fight against another team's unit, but the teams are very different. There's actually a pig army, although there's your typical elves and dwarves, but there is actually 125 different armies. Each of these armies has different units. They each have a different map that you can buy. Everything is little counters, and the maps are big paper maps, but you can laminate the maps. You can buy blocks and put the counters on blocks and color those blocks, something I did to make it easier to see. Your units you flip tokens, although I actually started rolling dice because rolling dice is easier than flipping tokens to attack with lots of special abilities. Initially, the game was a mess when it came to translation and figuring out how to play, but it was just this huge, sprawling experience, and I found it to be a lot of fun because it just had an immensity which I've never seen in games before. The designer is marvelous, and I should give him credit because we became friends after I reviewed the game, and he actually did the artwork for Vicious Fishes, which was published by Nestor Games. And I love his artwork. His artwork has that cartoony look to it, but at the same time, it's pretty cool, you know. And he has, if you can think of an army, he probably made it. There's a dinosaur army. There's an army of just nasty looking creepy blobby things. There's all kinds of armies. There's barbarians, you know, different armies, and each army had several units, and each of those units had different attacks. This game is hard to find, although you can probably get it, and it just fell out of the top 100 because I just didn't get it played as much. It was kind of a bear to explain to people. It was taking up a huge chunk of my game room because I had all these armies, and as much as I liked it, it was a bit unwieldy. So I had a lot of fun playing it, but it's faster for me to pull out Summoner Wars or Mage Wars even and play a quicker battle, which is the same kind of thing. Even Battle Lore to the second edition, the one that just came out, kind of gives me that same kind of feel. So I have a very soft spot in my heart for this game. I think it's very impressive and neat, and I would like to see it again. I know that he's been working on it, and it's very popular in Italy, but that's why it's no longer my top 100. But still, a very fascinating game, War Angel.
Hello there, Dice Tower viewers. Chaz Marler from the Pair of Dice Paradise board game podcast here, with a bonus segment from my recent series on running a gaming group. Carl wrote to me, and he asked, when playing, how do you handle food and beverages and the ever-looming threat of spills? He continues, I'm not one of those people that seals their games away in a shrine, but I would still like to be able to play these years from now. Excellent question, Carl. First off, at my game groups, we do snack while playing. And true, there is the potential for spills, but everyone is usually very respectful and tries to be careful. Yes, when we're playing one of my games, I do get distracted sometimes, monitoring for spilled drinks and greasy fingerprints. But I just have to remind myself that it's not really about the game. It's about the experiences we're having playing it. And, if I want to share a game, it's going to come with the risk of pieces being damaged, lost, or spilled on. It reminds me of a story that I'll share with you. I used to be involved in the comic book community in my state, and I'd attend a lot of the local comic conventions, where fans would bring their pristine, mint-condition, sealed comics to the artists and writers for them to autograph. Oh, but one time, this kid pulls out a worn-out, wrinkled, well-read comic out of his bag to be signed. The artist took one look at it, and instead of signing it, he stood up, calling for everybody's attention, and waving the comic in the air, he announced, This is what a comic book is supposed to look like. They're meant to be read, not hidden away in some vault. I agree 100% with that statement when it comes to comics. And I agree with it 100% when it comes to board games, too. Sure, if you're playing an out-of-print collector's item, you probably want to do so in a snackless environment, and those that you're playing with should be considerate enough to respect that. But otherwise, games are meant to be played, which means that some of them are going to get battle scars. But each scar means that they've been played, and that is something to be proud of.
Hi.
I'm so glad you could make it. I didn't think you were...
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm just glad I'm finally here with you.
Oh, I had a little bit of a confession.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've had a crush on you for, months.
Really?
I know it might sound stupid, but...
It's so funny that you say that. I've had a crush on you forever. I can't believe this. A beautiful woman actually has a crush on me. I don't know what to say.
That's so great. I really do. It just seemed like we had so much in common, and...
I know. What's your favorite board game?
Oh, I don't really like board games.
Somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying.
Hey folks, let's talk about Origins 2014. Origins 2014, I'm not sure what number year this is me going to these conventions. This might be the 10th time or the 9th time I've been to Origins. But I kept saying when I was there, Origins is back, and because it really is. I don't have the official numbers yet from the Gamma folk, but it was clearly higher than last year. Clearly more people there. Everyone seemed to be having fun. One of the things I've noticed, and I will continue to say, is that Origins is extremely family friendly. There were many families that came through, and the kids seem to be having a blast. I'm really pleased to see that the gender imbalance that conventions often have is really swinging up, not towards even, hopefully someday we'll get there, but still, quite a few females were there, and the atmosphere was really pleasant. It was just great, and a lot of people there. On Saturday, fairly crowded, many people there, And even Sunday, Thursday, Friday, there was a lot of people there, but it never felt overwhelming. You never felt like, oh, I can't get through the crowds. But all the exhibitors I talked to were very pleased with the numbers and the people who came. One of the things Origins did this year was they moved, some of the exhibitors moved out of the exhibitor hall and into Hall D, which is where much of the gaming was occurring. Asmodee did it, Cryptozoic, the WizKids did it, Mayfair, Yellow did it, where they moved out and they had games where they were demoing, and then you could buy them there even after hours. So that was a pretty cool thing and kind of spread the gaming out across the con. We were there as the Dice Tower, and many of you came up and said hi, and I'm glad I told you to. And it was just so great to see so many people, and we're really humbled and honored that many of you do enjoy this show, and we're very thankful. The Dice Tower dinner on Thursday night was fantastic, and I wish I was there for more of it. I was sick and really laid up for a while, and I wish I could have met more of you, but even so, like I said, a big kudos to the Dice Tower team, Eric Summer, Sam Healy, Matt Hosey, Daniel. Just those guys just took over and made sure everything got done, and I really appreciate that. I had a blast. I was tired when it was over, still feeling a little tired from it, but just so many cool things to see, meeting designers, meeting publishers, and it's really, Origins has become that convention where if you want to play games, there's so many places to play games. There's so much gaming that actually happens there. There were some major releases that were shown off there, but it was all about the playing of games. And so if you've never been to Origins but you like to play board games, it is certainly a great convention to go to. Certainly one that I would recommend. I had a blast when I was there. I got a chance to play quite a few games with people. I got a chance to see several games that are going to be released at Gen Con, and there was always something going on. And so I give kudos to everybody who was there. I think Gamma did an excellent job running the show. I mentioned before, I thought the Origins Awards are now at a higher level. Can't sit around complaining about them this year. Just much good going on there. Once again, the food was great, although a tear came to my eye when I went to the North Market and my favorite sandwich maker was gone. At least Jenny's Ice Cream was still there. And still great places to do. Man, I tell you, I like Gen Con a lot because I get to go to Gen Con and see fantastic new games. And it is an amazing, spectacle-driven time. But Origins is just a time where I get to get together and meet my friends and see a lot of cool games at the same time. So if you've never gone, I highly recommend that you consider doing it. It's a great time at the beginning of the summer where you can go and meet game publishers and designers and see all kinds of cool games and then kick back and play a lot of games. Origins 2014, sure there was little nits and little problems that any big convention is going to have, but I think it was a resounding success. And I hope that the Origins Summer Preview we do this week will show you some of the really cool stuff that we saw there. And that's it this week, folks. Again, my apologies for this being a day late, but I hope that you enjoy the remainder of this week anyway. Go out, play some games. Summer's here. Your kids are off from school. What to do to keep them occupied? Give them some games. Anyway, until next time, my name's Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production. Sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.